Okay, hello guys, welcome back to a new tier list, and now the next one is Sigano in Heizou, Sigewinne, and Sucrose. And okay, this is the scores, and there's also a new stars, Sucrose. Well, absolutely, I don't think this is actually not surprising. For me, it's not surprising. And I will actually going to talk it one by one, and why Sigewinne is also the new worst 5 star. Just before it's actually Shenhe, and now it's Sigewinne. Okay, let's start from Heizou. And first, Heizou is pretty much, I'm going to admit this, it's pretty much like Sucrose but without any buff and with a pretty much like a melee range, which actually kind of a bad thing, yeah, in one way or another. And that's why his score is actually first usage is B, because I have to admit, he look, this is her range, and compared with Sucrose, the difference is kind of big. And first, Chicken and Hazel also have this, which is people usually actually showcase that because it actually can one tap a lot of things. Well, not everything, but squeezy enemies, and it actually also can deal like a good chunk of damage. But pretty much just that, and I do think it's actually not that great in terms of damage output. From for perspective, even Hazel best team is actually like a salad team, which is kind of funny. It's still a hyper bloom. Well, hyper bloom is hyper bloom for me. So that's why his damage, his personal damage, is pretty much around that team. And for flexibility, I have to admit that also he's actually quite flexible, because remember, Animo, for me, Animo Catalyst is actually like the second best thing other than Heizou Catalyst, I think, because, well, you literally applies Animo, which, fun fact, plus Animo, which means a free VV. First, you can absolutely VV. Second thing, you easily swole. Third thing, you not rely with any skill. Yeah, you literally just NA at normal text, and you literally just, okay, what? Okay, it's normal text and you literally just swole. And for now, for limitation is quite ignorable for me. I think for for like his limitation is pretty not that great, because the problem is there's of course Sucrose. I'm going to say that first, but secondly there's also Lynette, because first, even though Heizou is actually kinda a DPS thing, Lynette is also the same thing. But the problem with Lynette is C6 Lynette. I'm talking about C6 Lynette. The problem with Lynette is you get insane amount of insane amount of energy. Plus, you can actually play Lynette not as just like Heizou can do, but you can play her as a support, which is actually a great thing about Lynette. And the bad thing about Heizou, the only bad thing about Heizou is you cannot play him in support case like Sucrose and Lynette. I think that is the problem. And for potential, I actually doesn't have much clue what the hell is his skill, but actually I only like understand a little bit, but I'm going to say because of this it's pretty much straight up A. Yeah, I'm just going to put him instantly A. For exploring, his talent is quite fine, this one. So that's it, and it's also a DPS, so it's actually kinda check a little bit. And his final score is A, and his location is below Mona. Okay. And there you go. And the next one is Sigewinne, and oh boy. And you might surprise, what the hell you have Sigewinne? Well, I just put pull her because she's actually kind of cute. That's it. Yeah, to be honest, I actually don't know what the hell I posted went to. Anyways, her usage healer. That's it. It's also increased damage. If it's only healer, then you are probably fucked, and I'm not going to give you C, absolutely D at worst case. At worst case, even F if I have to. But I don't think usage. There's no characters. It's actually that useless. At the very least, probably D or C. And Dps Single, you might think she actually doesn't do any damage, and you probably see people actually kind of slandering her damage, and I'm going to have to admit she's absolutely fucking terrible at doing damage. But she have this, which is actually quite okay. I'm going to say, it's okay. It's fine. For me, it's kind of fine. And for me, for like, is she deserving D or C? For me, I think so. I think for single target is kind of bad, but for AoE, the only thing why is C is probably her burst. Yeah, basically like that. Even though her burst doesn't deal that amount of damage, at least it's still helping a little bit. Oh my god, my English is so elite. And now flexibility. She's pretty much a healer. You can actually put her in any team, like even as troll as like you play her in new flat team. Well, you can actually play her in new flat team, and I'm going to discuss about the potential. Only the potential is actually okay for me. And for limitation, there's a lot of characters better than Sigewinne in Heizou category and in healer category. Why the hell are you play Sigewinne? Just that. But it doesn't mean it's that bad. You actually can play her. And now for potential. Okay, her potential, the only matters one is only one constellation, and it's actually quite good. Is C2. And other than this, she's absolutely have no fucking purpose. Yep. And for exploring, she's okay, she's kind of fine. Because she is a healer, so you can actually use her. And her final score is C. To be honest, Sigewinne is actually pretty straightforward to actually explain, because she actually doesn't give any offer to us. Yes, below her. Wow. Okay. And the next one is Sucrose, and you might see is stars, but now you might think why she's actually very deserving a star, because some people actually just think her as a animal catalyst, but for me she's actually an EM buffer, an insane EM buffer, and I do think she's actually the highest one so far. See, actually, if I actually show my Sucrose build, this actually can buff around 200, 230 or 230, yeah, around 235. And if you don't know how much that is, I'm going to show you just this. This is actually pretty much close. Is this buff? Yeah. If you think this is not good, I don't know what are you playing at this point. And I do think EM buff, and if you're still wondering what is her EM buff from, is from talent, both of the talent. And she's also actually buff damage bonus, but this one is actually kind of negligible. Yeah, this one 20% another damage bonus. It's actually kind of tiny, and it's not that crazy. And you remember it's damage bonus, so it's probably just like effects, not that great. And that's why I instantly going to put her instead Heizou B. I put her in S, and the only reason is EM. And like what I tell about Heizou is primarily you play in Hyperbloom, and the same like Sucrose. You're probably going to play her in Hyperbloom teams, and this time in salad, you actually increase your damage of Hyper Bloom. Yep. Because Hyper Bloom scale with EM, Sucrose is increase your EM. A good pair up. And I don't, but the problem with people actually kind of forget is you have to play still like a Raiden to actually proc it, because if you use her, she actually doesn't increase herself. Yeah, she doesn't increase her EM, so it only works to other characters. That's why I don't think it's that crazy, but it's still an increase of. And if you're still wondering how much an increase, it's probably you're going to see like 40k on Hyper Bloom, which is very big, or even 43k, which usually generally you will deal 35, or I don't know. I think I remember dealing 35. And that's why it's instantly this, because her buff, instantly all of them as, not as plus, because for me, because she's buff EM, he's not that great in some teams, and especially in like great DPS, because most of great DPS is actually doesn't use EM that pretty often. Yeah, and the only great team is probably in Hyper Bloom teams, or just a national team. I do think Sucrose national team is actually second or even third best team, or even first one. To be honest, you can actually argue me it's actually the first one, because the amount of EM is absolutely monster. And now for limitation, she actually doesn't have a lot of limitation other than what I just said, and that's why it's insulin S plus. And for potential, I don't think this is need to debate, and I do think she's actually have one of greatest constellation for like 4-star. All of them are actually very good. Yeah. And but I have to admit, exploring is kinda sucks using Sucrose. So the only bad thing about Sucrose is probably exploring. And her final score is 15.5 and is star, and it's actually below of all the star in the list. Yeah. And I think this is for this video. I think this is for now, and I do think for me this is kind of correct one. And the only problem with me actually discussing about Sucrose, you actually can argue with me with this, how much her buff is actually is, because it's actually buff so a lot, like incredibly a lot. This can be an S plus, but the reason why I'm not putting her in S plus, I'm going to argue instantly, is because she's not a DPS. And I don't care what you say about, like, she's only a buffer, which means I'm going to say, because she's actually not a buffer, doesn't mean you also cannot do damage. And this also applies to what I say about Furina. The reason why Furina great is because she actually do damage and buffing, and I think that is the difference between Sucrose. And I hope you enjoyed this video, and like and subscribe, and see you in the next video. And the next one is Toy Seller, Toma, and Dignary. See you in the next video. Bye bye.